Part 9D. Threshold Analysis/Data Protection Impact Assessment. In this part, we would like to introduce you to the forms for Threshold Analysis/Data Protection Impact Assessment. There are two ways to switch to the corresponding form. You can switch to the form via the link in the column DPIA or switch from the form describing the processing activity to the Data Protection Impact Assessment. This time, let's switch to the Data Protection Impact Assessment by first going to the form describing the processing activity. In this form you will find the button on the right side to switch to the Data Protection Impact Assessment. In lines 9 to 11, you enter a description of the planned processing operations or, in the case of existing processing, a description of the current processing operations. In the following fields, information from the description of the processing activity is shown. Some data protection authorities have published lists of processing operations for which a data protection impact assessment must be carried out. In row 26, you can select a processing activity from the list that corresponds to your processing. In this case, you no longer need to answer the risk assessment control questions listed later in this form, as the risk score is automatically set to 3, that means, high, and a full data protection impact assessment must be carried out. In the next area, a risk assessment of the processing is carried out on the basis of control questions. The severity of the risk results from the sensitivity of the processed data, which is taken from the description of the processing activity. The probability of occurrence is to be determined by the processor as part of the processing of the control questions per control question. A risk level is automatically determined for each control question. The highest risk level determines the risk value of the procedure and is shown in row 71. In line 74 you can document planned or actual controls and measures that reduce the risk. If controls have already been entered in the control directory, main menu item control directory, they can be selected in the next area. In each case, the result of the last check of the control is displayed behind the control, since only controls that work can really reduce the risk. The next step is to assess the risk in line 89 after implementing the controls and measures. In the following field, it is possible to enter further explanations of the new risk value determined. If the risk is still rated high, the following points must be dealt with. In line 95, you enter whether the opinion of the data subjects on the processing has been obtained. In the corresponding explanation field, you can document the result or provide a reference to the corresponding documentation. In line 100, you enter whether the supervisory authority has been consulted. In the corresponding explanation field, you enter the result of the consultation or provide a reference to the corresponding documentation. In line 107, you document the result of the Data Protection Impact Assessment. In the following explanation field, you enter the corresponding justification and, if applicable, the specified requirements. The Data Protection Impact Assessment must be dated and signed by the contact person for data protection and by the responsible body. To carry out a full Data Protection Impact Assessment, we recommend the free PIA tool of the French Data Protection Authority, CNIL, which is also available in English. End Part 9D.